days though is the whole United Health CEO assassin.
Yeah, dude.
I'm okay. I'll pat myself on the back a little bit. Like my radar for this stuff has been pretty on point for the last couple of years. But like as soon as that thing happened, that particular situation happened, and the video circulated, I was just like, "This is a patsy, 100%." Like there's no way they tracked him down, pushed him through the system, got him to the extradition trial. Like I was like, nope.
And the McDonald's employees recognized him. What? Like those guys give a shit. They're like, man, I hate my job. I don't want to be here. Like if somebody doesn't jump over the counter because I didn't serve them hot enough fries with enough salt or some shit. Like that's the biggest problem they have during the day. And
since a ton of them are automated already anyway, so are there like 2 employees in the entire building?
Yeah. I agree with you. Like when I look at this case of the shooter, first and foremost, like you've got this angle, like this guy has tracked down, the CEO, and he knows exactly where he's going to be. He's got a suppressed 22 pistol, which, by the way, that's on my Christmas list this year. If anybody's interested, a little Ruger, 22 pistol with the suppressor on it. Most fun gun you'll ever have. But yeah, I think as soon as I saw this, the fact that he was all covered up, I think this is part of the narratives that they want to push, right? Like how long did it take them to release what happened over in Tennessee with the trans shooter that went into the school? Like, it didn't fit the criteria for what needed to, be on page 1. This, on the other hand, you've got some, white male that's straight who's got, degrees and, is heir to a fortune and everything else. And all of a sudden, he
disappears for 3 months and then all of a sudden he snaps. Like, dude,
yeah,
okay, come on.
People are, and the dumbest thing about this is, they're like, well, he had that back surgery and it changed his entire fucking life. And I'm like, dude, you know what changes your life? Being rich as shit, being absolutely loaded. You don't need, healthcare. Go ask millionaires or billionaires, what they do for healthcare. They say I pay out of pocket because in the long run, it's cheaper for them.
Yeah. Well,
I was going to say, it definitely struck me as, an assassination, like a paid job. I doubt it. He was just, doing it because he felt like that was going to make any sort of meaningful change.
It's probably one of like the best parts of Twitter having like the reins loosened up a little bit, because obviously like it's not a full free speech platform like Elon likes to sell it as, but like it is. I think it is fascinating just to watch how like the kind of mycelium network that is Twitter works to use all this open source intelligence to met out what is actually legitimate or most legitimate that's being put out there. Because like I found a post, an individual looked up, like they identified all the gear that he was wearing. They're like, where's the money coming from? Like, well, then they dug further and they found out that the kid came from money anyway. But like, it was just like, I think that probably like started the rabbit hole of just like the ensemble that he rolled up in to shoot the CEO was like, you're not just some random kind of middle-class midwit that's going to be like rocking that gear and then just going down the line. Like he's, oh dude.
Also the suppressed 22, right? Like, you got to be first of all, you got to know something about guns, and being from the Northeast, being, like a trust fund kid, like I don't think that's the guy.
He's a data engineer.
Right. Like he's not the guy that goes, what would be the perfect little, assassin gun is a little Ruger 2022. Right. Like, and that's suppressed. And I hate the idea that anybody with a suppressor is automatically like, what you hear from Hollywood and the talking heads and DC and the rest of them is, what do you need a suppressor for? That's assassin stuff, right? And it's like, no, man, like that's just common courtesy. That's that shooting, that we're not cavemen. Like most other countries that have, guns, like, and there's plenty of them, they actually want you to use suppressors. Like they don't want cracks in
like for
pops.
range day type stuff. You mean?
Yeah. So to be as confident that you're going to take down a man with a small caliber weapon. Like, to me, that speaks somebody who has experience with this kind of weapon set. They trust it, and they know what they're doing, right? Like, that is not, I don't think that's a first timer's gun, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, like, to add on top of the ridiculousness, like when the headlines came out that there was like a message written on one of the rounds that they found, I'm like, yeah, confirmation right there. Just like, stop following it. Like,
all right, tell me about this. They found a message on a round.
They were like one word. It was the words all started with 3 Ds. I can't remember what it was, but somebody that's one of our viewers might, like one of our 5 viewers on YouTube might be able to tell us. But like I think it was supposed to be like a quote from a book or something like that. Like, I was just like the fact that like to think that somebody who is as disgruntled as they're trying to set up to assassinate the CEO of like a health insurance company, regardless of how much money was lost, you think they're going to write something on the round when they're about to do the job? No, that's Hollywood bullshit. That's something you find written in between the pages of a novel. That's not reality. Like, if you're somebody in that situation, in that position, you're going to be so much seething with rage and hatred that you're going to be focused on getting the job done and not like writing some message on the side of 3 rounds like this. Yeah. I think it's hilarious that we're to this point. Like, the psyops are so bad that
the MOs are so apparent and the psyops are so bad.
Yeah. I mean, it's clear that the CIA, DIA, NSA, all the 3-letter agencies, they're falling prey to their own DEI nonsense from the communists. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, we deserve better oppression than this.
Yeah, for $36 trillion, these guys should be masters at it, and they're getting worse by the day.
Yeah, we should be in a V for Vendetta type like society by now, but because they're too incompetent by their own mechanisms that they can't get there. Which is, that's a good thing, I guess, in one way.
Zach, we've been absolutely monopolizing this conversation. You got any thoughts on this one so far? Have you been watching it?
No, I mean, like I said, it struck me as a paid job, not revenge or vendetta sort of deal. So I just, assumed, it kind of reminded me of Seth Rich, or, he was robbed, but they didn't take anything.
Yeah. Double tap at the back of the head, right?
Yeah, exactly. So.
Who is Seth Rich again? I recognize the name, but I don't remember.
He worked for the DNC. Yeah. He was
a whistleblower.
The one that leaked Hillary Clinton's emails.
Oh,
yeah.
Never saw that one coming.
And I don't know how much I can say about names, but there the emails that came out. A certain other Democrat. Mention, he's still in. Wow, his name's slipping my mind right now. But
I know that Podesta and
Podesta
were both.
He's like, I'm all for making an example out of somebody, even if we can't really prove who it was. And so I think
I do remember that.
Isn't that a wild thing to say? Is like,
oh, I know, and nothing came of that. He's still out there, so they're above the law apparently.
Yeah, they're always above the law. That's the way a rigged system works. But, ladies and gents, hold on to your butts. Bitcoin Veterans starts now. Welcome to Bitcoin Veterans, everybody. I'm Shane Hazel. I'm joined by Moke, old Moki, Mike Hobart, and tonight we have Luke. Or geez, this is going to be one of those shows. We've got Zach from Coddle.co, the one of our sponsors. You might know him better by Punchplate, but this is Bitcoin Veterans. We do this every Tuesday night when we can. If we're not running around North Carolina or through the holidays. So I know it's been a couple weeks, but thank you guys for being here. First and foremost, we are here to put you back on the mission. A lot of us a long time ago, sometimes maybe a little more recently, if you're not as long and gray in the beard as I am. Yeah, we started this so that we could take veterans that were maybe kind of wallowing out there, looking for something, like they had in the military, the sense of belonging, sense of passion, sense of freedom, and turn all of that, into something that they could be passionate about again, give them a mission. So Bitcoin Veterans is involved in a billion different things. If you want to get involved with us, you can go to bitcoinveterans.org. We will set you up in the chats, which, if there's something that's going on and you want to be part of it, great. If there's something that you want to do within Bitcoin Veterans, even better. We've got a number of people in a decentralized group, thousands, I guess, at this point. And it's just one of those, organizations that continues to impress me day after day. It is an incredible group. So if you're looking for maybe a job in Bitcoin, we've got Operation Bitcoin. We've got a number of other things going on, whether it's communications, ham radio, Meshtastic, Noster. We've got everybody that's working on citadels out there. We've got gun groups, you name it. If it's something that pertains to the military and everything that we love about freedom and decentralization, you can find it there. But our guest tonight, Zach from Coddle.co, the man that is in charge of punch plates and storing your 24 or 12 seed words easier than ever, man. When I found your organization, I think I was down with Mike in where were we, Austin, that summer where most of us were melting and watching meth heads run around. That was the summer, and I came across your booth out there, and I was like, dude, this has got to be one of the best ways to store seeds. I've played with the punches where you take a punch with a letter that you can't read forwards on it, try to put that down, make a straight line and some cohesive word out of it. And then I've tried moving the block prints around, which is, for me, is one of those things where, well, what if somebody unscrews this and now all my letters are gone? And I don't know. And then I saw Punchplate and I was like, dude, this has got to be the smartest system out there. It's a punch and it's a plate and it's all, grammed up for you. It's incredible. So welcome to the show, Zach.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. And I'd like to say too, I love what you guys are doing. I try and tune in as much as I can. It always catches me off guard. I'll be like 20 minutes late. I'm like, oh no, I'm missing it. And my wife's really good at reminding me. And but yeah, no, love what you guys are doing. I'm not a veteran myself, but I'm from a military family, and just love it. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, we're happy to have, we've got a bunch of civilians. And I should probably say that if you're a civilian and you're listening to this and you want to be part of Bitcoin Veterans, we don't discriminate, man. It's if you're here for Bitcoin, we're here for you. We've got a ton of people, and if you're new to Bitcoin, whether you're civilian or a veteran, these guys will teach you Bitcoin. That's probably one of the best things that these guys do, and they do it all out of the goodness of their heart. You open source this kind of stuff, and it's amazing. You can sit there and peruse through different wallets people recommend. If you want to get one-on-one with somebody, there are a lot of people that will just take you underneath your wing. So yeah, if you want to get involved, bitcoinveterans.org. Tell us a little bit about how you got into Bitcoin. We were talking a little bit before the show. You've been in this since like day one.
Yeah, a little bit too early. Just a little bit too early, actually. I know it's hard to believe for a lot of people, and a lot of people kind of make fun and accuse me of lying or whatever. But I was I was like a middle school, high school wannabe hacker, like really into computers and building my own stuff, and just love technology. I was constantly out there like looking for software and doing things like that. So, I saw the white paper circulate one time, and I went to look for the software, and the software hadn't been released yet. And I was really disappointed because I read the white paper, and I just remember thinking it's about time. Like, yes, finally. Like I was a gold bug. I had no money to my name, but gold and silver bug. I remember playing with like my grandma's coin collection and seeing the silver dollars. And I'm like, $1? Like, this is worth more than $1. And so, it kind of was obvious, we don't really have like a sound money anymore. And being into technology, I was like, yes, finally we have a money made by technology. Like, this is amazing. I was into, SETI, like search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Yeah, so you could use your GPU to help them. However, it was, but it used a lot of energy. And there was another one called Boink, and there was another one called Folding at Home. I don't remember which I was doing at what time, but I remember, running my mom's power bill up and getting a really big bill and realizing, oh man, I gotta shut that down. I just really messed up. And I thought, it'd be so great if you could get paid or compensated for it. Like, cause I have this piece of technology here, like the best computer I could build. And I wanted to use it for something. And so yeah, long story short, I, found Bitcoin eventually a little bit later, right after its launch. And I was disappointed though, because I wanted to mine with my GPU, and I was like playing Crysis or something at the time, just testing it out, and ended up launching it and seeing that you couldn't even mine with your GPU. It's like CPU only. So I had a quad core Phenom at the time, and so I mined, and my first night I had lots of Bitcoin, and it was kind of disappointing too, though, because I had the Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, let's how do I move this or send this? And you couldn't send it because you have to wait for like the block to mature after so many blocks. And ended up realizing like, I was gonna run my power bill up, and I was struggling at the time, living with a girlfriend in an apartment I couldn't afford. And so I only did it for a little bit, and I turned it off, and sold the computer, games and Bitcoin and all.
What year did you start running this?
It was 2009, right away.
So did you ever actually mine a block?
Oh yeah, the first night I woke up in the morning and there was like 300 Bitcoin in the wallet, and I was like,
oof.
Oh wow. I'm like, oh, this is cool, but at the time it was worth nothing, right? And
yeah.
And I couldn't send it right away, and I realized like I can't keep paying for this, and
it's still a huge brag, man. I mean, to have mined blocks and to have mined blocks in Bitcoin, especially some of the first blocks. I mean,
it makes me sick to my stomach thinking about it, though. Just like the amount of money you could have had, and then it just kind of got worse from there, So I started mining again a few.
To be fair though, on you real quick, like if you were to think like that with everything, you'd never get rid of anything.
Oh yeah.
Right. And then we'd all end up becoming proverbial hoarders, and then our houses would be complete messes. And like, you don't want to, like, it's just take a load off your shoulders, man. Like there's like, I would have never kept that laptop or anything either.
Yeah, no. And then, later on, I saw like Max Kaiser, and I'm like, oh yeah, Bitcoin. And so I started mining again, and I was making, 0.3 Bitcoin a day. And I'm like, oh, 0.3 is nothing. I'm like, it was worth like literally nothing at the time. So I was like, I didn't stay humble. I didn't stack, and I just stopped. And I started getting more again, a year or two later. And, I gave it out to friends and family members, and they just laughed at me and lost it. Nobody saved any of it. And, so it took a while. And, you get right into, the shitcoin phase where, so I started mining when I told you I was making like 0.3 a day. That was, you couldn't actually mine with your GPU for like, maybe you could for about a month or two before suddenly the network hash rate went way high, and it was clear that ASICs were out. And so the GPUs weren't effective anymore. So we'd have to, you'd mine with something like LTC Rabbit, or, you'd mine these random shit coins. They would jump from coin to coin to coin, but they'd pay you out in Bitcoin. And so I had quite a bit. I sold it at some of the tops and then didn't buy it back again. And I've been just riding the roller coaster ever since. So.
That's still pretty fascinating, man. That's almost kind of the thing that your story kind of made me think was that you had like the 3 touch points to Bitcoin, but yours is different. Like you had 3 touch points to sticking with Bitcoin, is what it seems like. Because your first one was straight to it, and then you left and came back, and then you came back at it again for a while, and then you left, and then it sounds like this third one, was it the third one basically that brought you to making Punch Plate?
No, actually, so I started mining a little bit, and all the money I spent on mining, if I would have just bought Bitcoin, I would have been like way ahead instead of buying the ASICs. And but that was around, Bitcoin's price was maybe 200-ish or so, and by that time it took years to get people to actually start buying into it. And it was like I could never convince anybody. They just sort of felt sorry for me. They're like, "Oh, poor kid's gonna be heartbroken when he realizes he's in a Ponzi or whatever." So, so I just started. There's just so many times. So, and it's been
definitely more than 3 touches then.
Yeah, for sure. I know it's really painful, and I feel like an idiot. I feel like I should, have more than most, but I think it was the 2017 run up too, where I had a good amount, and then decided, I can, it's going to stay up forever, and I can just sort of retire. And didn't have a job for a while, and I'm in IT now. So ended up spending most of it. And now I look back and I'm like, oh man, I still could have been way ahead, and I just messed it up again. So it's been this I've learned my lesson now. So I think I started Punch Plate in 2020, 2021. I had purchased the hodlers and the crypto steel and the all the different ones you can think of. I bought a seed plate from CoinKite, and I remember seeing it, and I ordered it, and I expected it to be this small thing, and it was like a 3x5 almost, and I was like, this thing's huge. And when I was punching it, there was all this wasted space. I'm like, and so I reached out to NVK actually, and I was like, hey, can you make a multi-part or a more compact version or this or that? And he's like,
if you want it a different way, go do it yourself.
Yeah, I know, exactly. And so I was like, I can do this. And so I just started scribbling out how can I make this more compact? And I just worked at it for a while. My first ones really sucked. My second one sucked.
As anything that you do creatively will.
Yeah. And so I just kept at it though. And eventually I just came up with 6 or 7 designs, a bunch I haven't been able to afford to produce. And again, if I would have just saved more Bitcoin, I'd have more Bitcoin today than investing in. So it's been hard, but I've got some other models too that I just can't afford to produce right now. They're newer and I love them, but my goal is to make the smallest and most affordable. I didn't want to spend $70 per plate or $50 per plate plus shipping for several different stacks. I'm like, I can't do that. But so that's where Punch Plate came from.
So I have some questions about it, because this is by far my favorite, and I didn't know that you really only needed the first 4 letters of every seed word. Obviously, this cuts down on space significantly if you understand that, and a lot of people will sit there and put their entire seed word on different plates, and obviously you don't need to do that with this. Where did you first hear that, or how did you first understand that you only needed the first 4 letters?
Oh, just restoring. You restore from a backup, and they're unique after the first 4 letters. So most hardware wallets don't even accept more than the first 4 before it already has your the whole word in there. And actually, the one that you're showing right there, that actually stores the sort of like the underlying entropy. It's a large binary number that gets chunked into either, 11 or 23 chunks. So the one that you're showing there actually just records the underlying number. I've been trying to actually get a lot of people or a lot of the companies to show you the numbers, the underlying numbers, because to me, the numbers are much easier to handle and are less error prone.
When you say the numbers, can you like describe for people that like maybe you're listening and not looking at the screen? Like, what do you mean? Like, is it like each letter having a specific number pertaining to it, like one like throughout the alphabet, and then like that total?
Well, so let's just start with the first one. So if you have 0, 0, 0, 0, 4 zeros, it's abandon is the first word, right? So you don't need to punch all of that. You could just literally put a 0 and it's the first one, right? It's 0. The idea to do it with numbers actually came from a friend, Robbie at BitBlock Boom. He was like, hey, so you've got 26 letters here. Why don't you just do it by the numbers? And I was like, oh, hey, interesting. I'm like, well, but you're going to have to convert it on the sheet, and we're going to have to get people to, show you that underlying entropy. And it was going to be kind of like a hassle, but ended up making them way smaller. And so you can have a really compact, and actually it enables another design that I'm trying to get put out for it having a little rod or a stick. I've got some around here somewhere. I don't have it in front of me. But,
you don't want to give away any secrets yet, though, do you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, frankly, anybody can copy it. It's not. I don't think it's a patentable thing. So I
was just saying maybe being first to market with it. Have you seen anything else like that out there?
No, it's definitely the smallest, cheapest to produce, I think, and I think it looks the coolest. I think it makes a lot of sense too. But right now, I'm having a hard time finding somebody to manufacture them. They all want to use CNC machines when you really just need sort of like a lathe. But yeah, so the goal was to basically make these as cheap and affordable as possible for everybody. So,
well, I think you guys are doing a good job. I mean, when I look at some of the competition out there for storing words, if I saw $24.99 for a 24-word punch plate, like that doesn't exist out there. You see people like, oh, hey, this is titanium and this is steel, and it's like, dude, I don't give a damn. I am a Bitcoiner. First and foremost, whatever I don't spend on this, I can buy more corn with, for God's sakes. Like, I want this thing as small and as cheap as possible, so that if I have to run over a border somewhere, and I can't remember, those 24 words or whatever the case is, like I want this as small and indiscriminate as possible. And that's, I think, you've got a huge thing going here. And as more people, kind of figure this out, I think they're going to be switching over. And, the fact that you can, give these out, especially in this time for like Christmas, if you're getting people into Bitcoin right now, one of the best things you can do is get them a punch plate. Like, hey, I know it was the last thing that I did as a Bitcoiner, right? Like I had a BitX and I had a Start 9 before I had all this stuff caught up onto a punch plate, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, and I think it was 2017, right before the block wars. I don't know if any of you remember Mycelium, the wallet.
Yep,
so
I remember it.
Mycelium was I have a kind of a funny story there. This isn't probably not true, but it was. I like to joke that I almost single-handedly started the block wars problem because it was the whole be your own bank, and so I'm like, oh, okay, what does a bank do? I'm like, oh, well, maybe they print money, and I'm like, oh yeah, so you can make paper wallets. So I'm like, I'm gonna make $20 bills, $5 bills, $100 bills. And so I just printed hundreds of pages of Bitcoin paper wallets and started loading them up with Mycelium. Little did I know they were way overestimating the fees, and I didn't realize how much I was paying for them. So I was just doing transaction, and and I ended up spending, I don't even want to say how much Bitcoin I spent just on fees loading the paper wallets, but I spent way too much. And yeah, turned out I was spending like, you know, I don't want to say, but I still have them to this, well, a lot of them, you know, some of them, we've had some thefts and whatnot, but I still have a big stack of these paper wallets. I'm like, I don't want to sweep them. I kind of like them just the way they are. But yeah, with Bitcoin at 100K, it actually hit the mark. You know, I've got $20 bills, $100 bills, but obviously Bitcoin.
It's an interesting kind of like, I mean, seems almost like accidental security too for me. Now, obviously, it's a weaker security because, like, if your house burns down or something, that paper's obviously not going to live through it. But
right,
I think I could see a number of scenarios of where like that just accidentally plays out in your favor too. It's like, oh, they're going to think these are useless, these little scraps of paper or whatever I have the paper wallets written down on, right? Because the paper can be figurative and literal, but that could be useful. Like crossing a couple borders and stuff. Like all of a sudden you've got like a number of Bitcoin wallets with some money stored on it.
Yeah, and you know, I use them a lot too. Anytime a relative, like a grandfather, aunts, uncles would send birthday cards for my oldest son. He's 8 now, but before he was born, even we started saving for him in Bitcoin, and I could only afford, $20 a paycheck or whatever. But you know, they would send the checks in, we would cash the checks, I would send the Bitcoin amount, buy Bitcoin, send the amount on a paper wallet, staple it to the check, and put it back in with the birthday card. And so he has all these paper wallets that are worth a cool, lot now, and all these old birthday cards that. So I like to think, my grandpa was able to buy him a car when he's older, or whatever. So
that's cool. So you got to give yourself credit, man. I think that's cool as hell.
Yeah. Having kids and thinking about that changes everything too. Bitcoin changes you, kids change you, and it's wonderful. So
yeah, it's funny when you put them together and they actually start to understand. My oldest now is 13, and he updates me on the price of Bitcoin all the time. And especially if it's just like there are nights where we'll be headed into jiu-jitsu or coming back, and we live in the sticks, so it's a bit of a trip. And to have kids just questioning you like, hey, what's going on with this and what's going on with that, and they're actually paying attention to what's going on in Bitcoin at like 10, 11, and 10 years old. I should say 13, 11, and 10. Like it's one of those things where these guys are starting to understand. And I think a lot of people don't give kids enough credit in this realm. Is like when I don't know if you guys remember, some of your first jobs where, you were mowing lawns or doing whatever, and then you found out about taxes and, how irate you were. And like kids are, what do they say, out of the mouth of babes, right? Is like they will say some shit and you'll be like, yeah, I remember exactly where I was when I figured out exactly what you're hearing right now and how much bullshit like, wait a second, I didn't see the government anywhere when I was doing this work, and now they're coming to me with loaded guns saying, hey, give us some of that the hard-earned money. And especially when you're at that age and you are whatever you're earning, it's because you're going out and putting, sweat equity into something, or, you really don't have a ton of skills to offer the marketplace. Not a lot of value, but you do have energy and you do have time. And those two things, when somebody wants to take those away from you, like these kids start to understand very fast that Bitcoin is their future. And when they understand that Bitcoin is their future, and now that you've made little AND caps, like almost out of the start, right? Is like how many sats do I have in the logbook now? Can I buy more this weekend? Can we, before this jumps up anymore, I've got $200 or $300 that I want to put in. And this is my kids with their little jobs and everything. So I think you getting your kids started at a very early pace like this, it's critical to where we're headed as a species, man.
Yeah, I mean, they save in their allowance. I give them $10 a week or $20 in Bitcoin. They always choose the Bitcoin, and they're always excited. They see their little graph go up and up and up, and they're excited about it. And if the price goes up, I'm like, hey, check your account. And they look and they're like, wow, I didn't put that much in there, and now it's with that. And then we price stuff in sats at the store. So I'm like, these pickles cost 6,000 sats right now. My oldest is like, oh no, we don't need it. It's okay.
No, we don't need it.
Yeah, no. And so he doesn't beg, he's like, I want a bike, but I know it's better if I wait. And, so.
I think that like, that's one of, dude, I got to stop saying this. It's one of my favorite things about Bitcoin, cause I have like 6, but, it is something that I think is really going to radically like change society for a lot of better developments, like generations and decades down the line of like both your guys' kids being able to see the opportunity to just save and it being like having a meaningful outcome. Because like that, I think, Shane, like your situation was like the taxes. Mine was realizing that you can't save and get anywhere. That's what pissed me off. I was like, are you freaking kidding me? Like the most like sensical, rational, logical strategy to like prepare myself to get anywhere meaningful, I can't even do. Like that's such an, and I guess depending on how you look at it, you can rope them both into the same thing, but like that's such an egregious theft across multiple different categories of the population between time, health, energy, like all of it. It's just, I'm excited for your kids and then my future kids when I get to the point of having them. Like that'll be fun to like get that across to them. And your guys' kids are learning about investing and everything else. There's not a whole lot of kids in America that are getting that kind of exposure from their parents and like getting excited.
And like Zach just talked about, not only are they learning that, but they're learning delayed gratification. One of the greatest, aspects for kids in this is just that there's so many in this throwaway culture that just want whatever the latest piece of, shit plastic thing is out there. And that to me is, when you see these kids that will delay a bike, for God's sakes, like the fundamental equipment for a child, right? Like, especially a young boy is like, hey man, that thing, that's freedom. And that's how I get over to my buddies' houses and things like that to say, you know what, maybe I don't need that bike. Maybe I can do more of a hand-me-down bike, or maybe I can do something else. Whatever it takes.
Find one at a garage sale.
Yeah, whatever it takes to save sats so that tomorrow is brighter than today. So that you are literally free from, this ridiculous system that is, zapped the wealth out of, anything and everybody that ever had a heartbeat. to have kids that are going to be, that are going to be Bitcoin natives, like literally they're not saving in cash and they will never have a bank account. That to me is, that's worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah, I always have to try and balance it a little bit too, because he'll they started ripping up dollars. I'm like, no, we can still buy Bitcoin with them. And he's like, it's worthless. And I'm like, yeah, not yet. But we can still get Bitcoin.
I like where the head's at. Let's just ease up on the excitement.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's still use the current system against itself so we can like continue to prosper.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt of that. If the dollar fails, their countries aren't going to stop making. I think they're just going to reboot, and it might just be volatile. But I don't see them ever giving up that power unless they literally don't have that power.
No, that's the one thing that like I one message to try to get across to a lot of Bitcoiners or like even like not just Bitcoiners, but like kind of like the normies that are coming to the Bitcoin space. It's like, guys, if there's one thing that's true, like the fact that this fiat system has been done and redone and reimagined for thousands of years at this point, it's that trend is going to continue. Like there's going to be the next thing, which we all know is going to be a CBDC. It's going to be the continuation of it. It's unfortunate. Yeah, dude, that's okay. That's something with this bull run that I'm like getting super annoyed with. The XRP group.
Let's have that conversation as soon as we come back. We've got some sponsors we got to hit up.
Yep.
Sit back, grab a beer if you need to, whatever you need, bourbon, a bowl. I don't know, whatever. But here's a word from our sponsors. Black Sheep Ammunition, veteran owned and operated. Black Sheep Ammunition graciously donated 6,000 rounds to Bitcoin veterans for the Nashville Range Day event. Use Bitcoin 10 for 10% off. Black Sheep Ammunition is not made for the faint of heart. They craft ammo for the black sheep, for the watchful defenders called to hunt, provide, and protect, and for the brave patriots who boldly keep watch atop the hill, and for the weirdos who aren't afraid to stray from the flock. When courage calls you to action, Black Sheep will be there to answer. Their mission is to supply every freedom-loving American with enough firepower to get the job done twice. Check them out at blacksheepammo.com. Use the code Bitcoin10 for 10% off. A big shout out to our friends over at Punchplate. Codl.co, that's CODL.co. Punch plates are a durable medium for your Bitcoin and can store 12 words or 24-word Bitcoin backups. Storing your Bitcoin in metal ensures your keys will survive in the elements, accidental spills, and in some cases even fire. You don't have to worry about smeared ink or ripped paper and can sleep soundly knowing your Bitcoin are inscribed on a punch plate. These are the best prices you're going to find in this industry. $24 for a 24-word punch plate. It's simple. It's a punch and a plate. No little letters, no stamps with letters on them. Just a punch and a plate. Go check them out at Codl.co. That's punch plate at Codl.co. Solo Satoshi is dedicated to the advancement of open source Bitcoin mining with a steadfast commitment to the security and decentralization of the Bitcoin network. As a pioneering force in the Bitcoin space, their mission is to empower individuals and businesses worldwide with innovative, secure, and decentralized mining solutions. At Solo Satoshi, they believe in the transformative power of open source software and the potential it holds for the future of Bitcoin mining. They strive to foster a community of developers and enthusiasts who share our vision of a more secure and decentralized Bitcoin landscape. Our dedication to open source principles is at the heart of their mission, driving their commitment to transparency, collaboration, and innovation. They are passionate about supporting the growth and the development of the Bitcoin network, and they recognize the critical role that open source software and developers play in achieving this goal. By promoting and contributing to open source ecosystems, they aim to facilitate a more robust and resilient Bitcoin network, ensuring its longevity and success for years to come. At Solo Satoshi, their mission is not only to provide cutting-edge mining solutions, but also to educate and inspire others about the importance of decentralization and open source principles in the Bitcoin space. They believe that by working together, we can create a future where Bitcoin mining is more accessible, efficient, and aligned with the core values of decentralization and open collaboration. All right. Thanks to all of our sponsors, especially Zach here at Codl.co, who runs the punch plates. Man, all right. Before we broke there, we were talking about getting into refresh my memory because I tell you what, I started writing some stuff down here.
I was expressing my anguish with the XRP army.
That's right. Yeah, we were going to get into some XRP. Our good friend, old Monica down here, put something up there about XRP today, Mike. And
I'm sure she has. Hey, I ignore it.
Yeah, I was like, hey, maybe don't. If you want to talk Bitcoin sometime, I'm here for it.
Yeah,
this whole XRP thing, man. Let's go. Go ahead, Mike. What do you got? I want to be as frustrated as I feel like with these people, but like the problem is that all of the individuals that I've encountered with that are like on the XRP boat, they haven't been around for very long. So, and because I interacted with a lot of the kind of like shitcoiner group back in 2020, 2021, because I was a shitcoiner in 2017, 2020, 2021 taught me a lot about like these individuals is like, you can't like talk them out of their position or their opinion on like kind of like shitcoining and like the whole space and the whole crypto space until they get burned significantly and they start asking questions. So like, it's really just more of like my opinion of the individuals is just like an exhaustion point. Like I'm like, look, I hope you make a bunch of money doing, or a bunch of USD or whatever, or maybe it like
during the alt.
Uh-oh.
You got muted.
You're muted. I got you. Hold on. There you are.
Try that. That's another thing is I am going so hard into the Bitcoiner lifestyle. I haven't updated my laptop yet. So like this laptop is the one that I took with me to Kuwait on deployment.
Holy moly.
Yeah. But what I was saying was that the individuals that like you can't talk them out of it. Like you can't talk them out of this. They have to get burned. So like, okay. Like, I hope you make a bunch. I hope it ends up gaining against Bitcoin during the alt season so you can get a bunch of Bitcoin out of it. I hope you find a way to profit. 95% of you won't.
I think that's a low number too. I think that is an incredibly, I think 90, it's got to be 99% of people who are shitcoining, whether it's XRP, whatever it is. Like, if you're out there and you're in the sound of our voice, how long have you been in Bitcoin, Mike? Since what, 2017?
17, yeah.
Same here. And Zach here has been in it since 2009. Since
inception, yeah.
Does anybody here still own shit coins? I mean, and I'm not talking about that fractional amount that you made the mistake of opening up on Coinbase and fucking around with, right? Like, I own no shit coins, and I would never steer anybody towards anything but Bitcoin.
No.
And with XRP, from it's been a while since I've looked at it. I worked for a large company and they were evaluating all the different coins at the time. What can they use to move money? They transferred, billions from bank to bank. They settled on XRP for transfers, but the issue is it's not meant to be a store of value. It's only ever going to hold a small amount of money at a time before it's no longer in XRP. So it's not meant to be a store of value.
Which means it's not an investment.
Yeah, no, not an investment. It was meant to be like a sort of just like a protocol that at maximum could hold only a small percentage of the value that was being transferred, not.
Yeah, what's funny is we will relate what we're talking about to a lot of the books that we read. One of the books that continues to come up in this show is the Confessions of an Economic Hitman, and unfortunately, what the world, the IMF and the World Bank does is they go into select countries that are ripe for pillaging and taking their minerals and everything else, and structuring debt so that they can never escape that while getting rich. And XRP just seems like this currency that is used for international transactions that maybe kind of skirts around the idea that you can't actually, like, you can buy XRP with non-dollars basically. So if you can buy, and this is where the whole thing kind of comes unraveled for me. If you can, if the way the debt is structured, and if you don't know, debt cannot be paid back with anything but US dollars. So just because a country has a printing press and they have like the Bolivian, Bolivar, whatever the hell it is, they can't pay it back by printing more of the Bolivar. Like they can't do that. What they have to do is they have to earn dollars and pay down the debt, which is absolutely impossible, especially when it's pegged to the dollar that's inflating their currency at a higher rate that it's inflating even our currency. Yeah. But what it sounds like to me is, like you hear all these guys on there, Bitcoin is going to be used, for, human trafficking and drugs and all these, ridiculous things at a greater rate than the dollar or XRPs and cryptos. So let's get this right. If you can buy XRP with freshly minted other foreign currencies and then use that to buy dollars, what have you just done? Like, you've literally just kind of like skirted that system. And I think that's one of the reasons why XRP has had some of the legs of it's had, is just because there is a use for it, and it's about getting around the structured debt of the IMF and the World Bank.
And I don't think you can self-custody it. Like, I think that it's like, maybe you can now, but last I checked, I think it was 2017 or so, and 2018, you weren't able to even like hold it yourself. It was just like stuck in whichever
exchange.
In exchange, and there was no way to get it out.
Well, the interesting thing too is that two things. One thing in particular is back in 2019, I remember Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple Labs putting in significant effort to make sure they were going out in front of everybody, like Anthony Pompliano's podcast and everywhere else that they went. It's like XRP is not the same thing as Ripple. Like they mimicked it they echoed it for years. Now that like this stuff's happening with XRP's price action, I'm not hearing any of that. No. There's none. And then following up with that, I just watched a thing that our friend had shared earlier today. Apparently now they've got like a Ripple Labs USD token thing. And I'm just like, okay. So you guys have made your crypto account to sort of try and rival Bitcoin and attack Bitcoin. Oh, by the way, they were also funding the Greenpeace nonsense that was like they were literally making up the narratives that Bitcoin was bad for the environment, was funded by Ripple Labs and Brad Garlinghouse. But they're trying to challenge Bitcoin and then position themselves as being cross-border payments, which is also challenging the dollar, but then they're also making a dollar. So I'm like, okay, like you guys, like it's literally just like goalpost moving to try and suck in like they're literally searching for in real time in a free market kind of way of like which narrative sticks to the wall that they can get the most people sucked in. It's just like,
it's every other shitcoin. It's overpromise, underdeliver. And at the end of the day, when people don't understand how Bitcoin works and what it's done in terms of achieving a threshold of over almost now a $2 trillion market cap, right? Like I think their market cap is about 155 billion or something over at XRP. Like probably. That's a fraction.
I mean, they keep 55 billion locked up in escrow that gets released like every month or something like that. They've got like 13 of them.
It's another centralized shitcoin. And I don't like for anybody that's new and doesn't understand how Bitcoin is not that. Bitcoin is obviously decentralized. And when we talk about a centralized shitcoin, the dollar was kind of like the first centralized shitcoin. If it can be manipulated by a person or a group of people, then your money has no real value because it's not going to it's not going to stand the test of time. It's going to get inflated. It's going to get manipulated. They're going to change things. They've already changed things with XRP. And that's, they've done the same thing with ETH, and when they fork these codes,
I appreciate the laugh.
That's an admission out there, guys, that, their code wasn't fucking working. Like, it's just, hey, now we got to start over and now we got to go from this place because, the code before that wasn't keeping up with Bitcoin. Right. Like, and let's face it, everybody measures their stuff against Bitcoin. That's nobody's, Doge isn't going, oh, I wonder what XRP is doing and XRP isn't, what's Doge? No, it's all about Bitcoin, for God's sake. So save yourself the time, save yourself the trouble. Don't climb Mount Stupid. Buy Bitcoin, invest in Bitcoin, get your Bitcoin seeds down, and that's it. Like this is not hard.
Stay humble, stack sats.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But like on the topic of shitcoins, though, I was curious, Zach. What since you openly admitted to dabble in it, what was your favorite one at the time before you lost all your money in it?
Oh well, initially it was a means just to get more Bitcoin. So Litecoin came out pretty quickly. And so you could mine Litecoin and have it automatically turned into Bitcoin. And so you'd stack Bitcoin just because you were mining Litecoin with your GPU.
The silver, the digital silver.
Yeah. And then, Dark Coin, and then it was a million. And then you couldn't keep up. There were so many. And it was just like, and you could find services that would mine them randomly and then pay you out in Bitcoin. So I did that for a while because I was like, I want more Bitcoin. I can't get it. I've lost money trying to buy ASICs that don't come. It was get Bitcoin at all, by any means, and now I realize, oh man, now people are just saving the altcoins now, and they're not, or the shitcoins, they're not getting Bitcoin out of it. And so somewhere it got lost in translation that these were just to get more Bitcoin. and the people perpetuating them, they didn't, they're dishonest, and they're just trying to, they're trying to get more Bitcoin. If you think all these people with their shit coins are not stacking Bitcoin as their primary, store of value, they've sold you a bridge to nowhere, right?
Well, we know the Hawk Tuah girl definitely isn't, because that entire group is too stupid to even pull off a proper scam. Like, you think you're gonna pull a successful rug pull in the first hour of your coin going live? Like, dude.
Especially Hawk Tuah girl, God's sakes. and for everybody out there, like, that's the caliber of shitcoiners. I mean, if we're not talking you out of it already, please, for God's sakes, understand who Hawk Tuah is, and then understand that's shitcoinery. That is the face of shitcoinery. It is it is everything you need to know about these guys. And boy, I guess if that's who you want to do business with, well, maybe first and foremost, check your principles and stop being so desperate. This is, here's the secret of Bitcoin, everybody. You ready? Buy Bitcoin, hold Bitcoin with money that you don't need and you can live without, right? It's basically savings. And just hold it. In 4 years, it will change your life. And in 8 years, you will never have to work for somebody ever again. That's
still do, because 8 more years, you're going to be like, oh man, I could do so much more.
Well, and here's why I say you never have to work for, and this is the copy, somebody else. When this is what I've found now, because I've kind of gotten put in this position within Bitcoin Veterans now, where it's like, this takes up a lot of my time, a lot of my days, and it's one of those things where I love this. This is, now that I'm to a point where Bitcoin's got us and we're good, it's like, all right, how do you give back? How do you help other people? It's like Neo going out and saying, hey, you know what? Let's go free as many people from the system as possible. Now, with time, for fun. Like, now I get to go out and do freedom on a 1-by-1 basis. In the past, it was like, oh, okay, let's go try to run for political office and go through their system to help more people understand freedom. That's not the case anymore. The case is now, we can go to places like North Carolina, and big announcement. And I guess we haven't really talked about this much, but last week I got to go back to North Carolina. I checked in on our good buddy, and I won't release the name and everything yet because I don't want to dox it yet. But in terms of making sure that the money that was provided to us through donations from our audiences in the Bitcoin community, we raised about $120,000, and this guy has been running. He's a local vet. He's a sniper instructor. He's a 75th Ranger Regiment guy. He's a local, and he just started running his own place. And like I said, I won't say where, in Western North Carolina. He started running his own supply point, and then he started making deliveries. And now he's got crews going out and doing all of these magnificent things for people, not only in his county, but outside of his county. And he's flown in the face of these different churches that if they're Baptist and you got Methodists, and they're like, you can't play with those guys, you can't do it with these guys. You've got county officials who are like, no, we need to keep all of this inside the county. That guy's like, I don't give a damn about any of this stuff. I care about helping the people who need help the most. And so with the permission of the board here at Bitcoin Veterans, I set him up with a wallet and donated $30,000 to him in terms of Bitcoin. And when we're setting this up inside of his kitchen, I got to tell you guys, like, it was one of those experiences where you got to see this wash over somebody, right? Like, he got it. He's quick on the uptake. He's a super bright guy on top of helping his community. And then when I transferred it to him, I didn't tell him how much I was transferring it. And he looked at it. Oh,
you didn't?
No. And so he looks at,
I could have been there for that.
He looks at the transaction and he goes, did you mean to transfer over $30,000? And I said, yeah. I'll tell you right now, if you've never seen a 75th Ranger Regiment guy that's a sniper instructor shed a tear right in front of you.
Damn. Dude. I wish I could have been there.
I wish you guys could have been there too, man. Yeah, like it hits you right in the heartstrings. Like, just absolutely, just like, dude, this made a huge difference. A huge difference. And so if you're out there and you're looking to still help these guys in North Carolina, which they need a ton of help, I can tell you right now, after being up there this last week, there is still a ton of work to do. And there are guys on the ground that are now locals that are doing this. And this was the mission all along. But this is the power of Bitcoin. Like, this is the power of taking people that understand how corrupt the system is, putting one and one together for them, setting up a wallet and show them how easy practical application is. And now, now that we've got some addresses that we can send to, it's like, dude, he has no idea what's on the way. If I have my way, like, this guy is going to be the mayor of Western North Carolina, because he is going to be able to help more and more and more people, which I think is just, I mean, shout out to everybody who's ever donated and supported that mission. Absolutely. Yeah. Jeff, you're right. That is absolutely incredible. I'm giddy with the amount of good the Bitcoin audience does. And that's why I say 4 years, 8 years, you don't have to work for anybody else. You can start your own, give back organization, whatever that is, and start freeing people on your own time. And, this is the power of the Bitcoin community. It's, one at a time. Go out there and free somebody.
That's the hardest part, is one at a time.
Yeah, we want it all at once.
Yeah. Zach, I actually wanted to ask you back to your story a little bit. One, I love the hat, 9 Inch Nails.
Thank you.
Yep. That's actually something I've been thinking about the entire time we've been talking, but I, for whatever reason, it never slipped out of my mouth. But I wanted to ask you, how's your experience been with Punch Plate since you started it? Because it's been what, a couple years now? You said 2020 is when you started?
3 or 4 years now. It's been bittersweet. I jumped into it thinking, oh wow, I've always wanted to have a business of my own. Nothing's ever stuck. I've wanted to start, managed service providers. My background's in IT and computers, and so I've always wanted to do something like that, and it's just always been so difficult. I don't like taking money from people. I don't like the money aspect of it. I know profit is necessary in order to keep going, and so it's, if I can't help myself, I can't help everybody else. And so I realize that now, but getting started was difficult. Suddenly a lot of the companies and a lot of the people you look up to don't want anything to do with you because you're now a competitor, or they're afraid of hurting their friends' feelings, or they're afraid of not fitting in, with, not naming any names, other groups.
We know the types.
Yeah. So suddenly it was like, oh wow, I'm on an island of my own now. Like, there's nobody else's, I've got my fans and lots of people supporting me. So I really appreciate that. And, but yeah, no, it's been tough.
Can I ask you what the most difficult part is, without you getting too personal or anything? Is it the sourcing? Is it logistics? Is it balancing the family? What's the most difficult for you that you think entrepreneurs, especially in the Bitcoin space, should be prepared for?
Marketing is really hard. It's hard to come up with, a product and then fit it to a bunch of people. The way marketing works is they find the people and then they make the product for them. And so I sort of learned that I went about that all wrong. And, my oldest son helps me pack up orders and is all about it, and draws punch plates and all sorts of stuff all the time. And they're really into it and love it. And so, feeling like maybe I don't succeed, or feeling like I want to give up, that hurts, because I'm like, oh man, I can't let them down, because they're so into it now. And, not really feeling like I fit in with, again, some of the groups that I once really liked, because they now see themselves as friends of a competitor. And so they don't want anything to do with me. And, Twitter shadow banning, if you talk about political stuff, your account is limited. And so I'm like, now I don't get any reach. And, that's been really frustrating and difficult. My thing is I like designing the stuff. I like making it better. I want to, sourcing stuff actually was really hard too. I must have called 100 companies here in the US. I was determined to make it here in the US. And you're too small. You're too small initially if you don't have any money for the companies to care about you. And they don't have time if you're not up to, you know, the product sheet or like the way they're expecting the files to look or whatever. They don't have any time for you to do that. Like, so it was really hard to find somebody to actually work with me and get these created. So
you had companies actually denying to work with you because you weren't filling out the paperwork properly?
Well, they just won't respond.
Straight Army. That's like straight Army U.S. government BS right there.
Yeah, they won't
fill it out with the right color pen.
Yeah, or you know, the way that it was. It's really hard. Most of it was, are you going to buy 1 million units or not? Or they would give you a price that was just way too high. And it was like, well, it's not worth it. I don't accomplish my goal of making a cheaper, more affordable thing if it's going to have to be this expensive. And so then, you know, pricing them as low as I can and then not making profit for the first 2 years at all was really tough because like I don't want to take money from people, and you know, I do want more Bitcoin, and that's why I started the business. But so that was really difficult. For the first couple of years, turns out I was pretty much making them for free, not really making any transaction or traction or making enough to advertise or market. And then, you know, there's a lot of companies that, you know, like, I thought, oh, I'm a new Bitcoin company. Bitcoin Magazine is all about Bitcoin, and they're going to talk about my company now because I'm a Bitcoin company, right? And they're like, you know, they want thousands of dollars, like tens of thousands of dollars. And so I'm like, oh, well, that's not worth it. I'm going to save my Bitcoin instead. And so that's
the Bitcoiner company answer right there. It's like, no, it's not worth it.
Yeah. And so that's been really tough. I didn't expect any of this to be as difficult as it was, but you know, 3 years in, I just keep going, and it's slowly just getting, you know, little by little. We really only need to make a few sales a month to keep afloat, and so now that the bar is so low and we have such little overhead, you know, it's just me over here. So, you know, I sponsor you guys. I've sponsored some other people in the past, and you know, it's hard because our bank account doesn't look so good. But when we make sales in Bitcoin, we just save that, and just because we can stay afloat and afford to do nothing with our Bitcoin savings, we're not going anywhere. Like I can afford to make almost nothing a month and still come out ahead with our Bitcoin savings. So that's been like the silver lining and everything.
That's a major kind of like selling point to just entrepreneurs in general right now. It's like, if you're trying to start up a new company and you're tight for cash, you start saving that money in that Bitcoin, and like, you're probably going to be fine if you can survive 3 or 4 years.
Oh, easy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, 3 or 4 years. I mean, right now in this cycle, if you can save in Bitcoin and just let it ride, man, you're going to be okay. Like, I mean, you're at least going to have some breathing room at minimum. You're going to see some sort of purchasing power gain because of holding Bitcoin. And if you're not holding it, geez, Pete, you know, if there's anybody out there in the audience right now, there's about 600 people out there listening. If you've got a punch plate, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. I will tell you right now, if you don't have a punch plate and you're thinking about Christmas stocking stuffers and things like that, man, give these guys a shout, man. Coddle.co, they deliver quickly. I don't know if they can get it to you before Christmas. I don't know. Is that something that you guys can do right now if people ordered it?
Yeah, I mean, if we get orders, and you know, we ship them out in our mailbox every morning. So yeah. As soon as they order, we get them out as fast as we can, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll literally run it out there before the mailman shows up. You know, we know when he shows up, and so we're like, yeah.
And I don't just say this because you're a sponsor. We have you as a sponsor because I believe in this product, right? Like it was the first seed plate that I ever bought, and I got to tell you, it was the best decision of my life, because I tried the other stuff and I was just like, dude, are you, hands down, it's like buying cold wallets, right? Like you sit there and you're like, oh, you know, a Bitbox or a Cold Card, or, you know, a half a billion other, you know, cold wallets out there. And you're like, dude, this Cold Card beats everything hands down. That's exactly like that for, you know, storing your seed words. So if you're out there, I highly, highly, highly recommend. I would not buy any other way to, you know, to store my seed words. Like, this is not only the most cost effective, but it's also just the easiest and most permanent way to do it, in my opinion.
On that note, I was actually going to add too, is like, you're really sticking with the Bitcoiner ethos of like the very durable product. Like, your line of revenue isn't relying upon like a subscription model or people constantly changing out their good. It's like, you buy it once, it does exactly what you want it to do. It's not like there's no chip involved, so you don't have to upgrade firmware or anything like that. You just get what you're asking for, and then you're done. Like, that's, I mean, that's how it should be.
It's it's also sort of, you know, why it's a little bit hard to continue, right? You make sales, you have one customer, and, you know, they buy what they need, and then they don't need any more typically. And so you're sort of always looking for more and always trying to grow. But that's, you know, that's what I wanted. You know, I remember, you know, putting the little pieces inside the little like Bill Fodl or little pieces on the crypto steel and having a million extra pieces and seeing all the waste. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do with all this stuff now? And I don't want a million extra pieces. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and every one of your plates comes with a punch, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. They come with these manual punch tools. You do need a hammer. It's not exactly the easiest thing to do. You know,
it doesn't come with a hammer.
I'm going to tell you right now, it's easier.
I can't afford the hammers yet.
It's easier than doing it with the stamps, right? Like if you're looking at stamps and then you have to put the stamp back into a box in the right place so that you can get it, and you're reading it's backwards for one thing. Mm-hmm. Like, that's a pain in the ass, man. I mean, absolute pain in the ass. And like I said earlier, if you're, you know, fiddling with like all the loose, you know, letters that are out there, who's to say, you know, somebody that doesn't understand what the hell this is, maybe a kid who's curious, who finds a screwdriver, undoes this whole thing, and now your seed words are toast. Like,
yeah, I literally had the washers, and I'm like, if this comes off and I lose one of them, you know, maybe you lose one, you're okay, but you don't want to lose those, and you just lose all of your money. And so
yeah,
I was in that same spot. I don't want a million pieces. I don't want that. And I will say, so they do come with the manual punch tools, but the automatic center punch one that we found, we went through dozens of those. Some of them are really terribly made. We found some that are made in Japan, and they work way better than a lot of the automatic center punch tools out there. So I do recommend people getting those just because it's super easy. You just push into it and it clicks and punches right where you want it. So I've got some sad kids in the background.
I'm sure it's getting on. It's a little bit earlier there than it is here, but I definitely understand having younger kids where they hit Chernobyl state is what we used to call it, a meltdown. It's like they're 100 miles an hour until they're not, and they're like, oh.
Yeah, I've got a little 2-year-old who's almost 2. She's getting at that point, but she's really good. She's great. So,
well, I mean, if you need to take care of that, that's fine too. You know, we're obviously very family centric here and understanding, so you just let us know.
Gotcha. My wife's they're watching a movie or something, trying to keep them busy. So
you just yell at her. What's her name?
Jenna.
Yeah. Shut those kids up. No, I trust me. Those days go real fast. And now that I'm saying it, and the white in my beard kind of shows, you know, maybe a little bit longer in this process, but I'll tell you what, those years they're awesome. I mean, when kids are that small and you've got them, you know, where they actually want to sit in your lap and hang out and do stuff with you and everything else, like, those are some good years, man. Little tough, but they're good years. We're getting into that point in the show. I know, you know, you said you may not have a story, but we do this every time. We do this.
Who said that? Who the fuck said that? What have we got here? A fucking comedian, private joker.
So usually what we do is we have people tell, somewhat of a humorous story. And, if you don't have one, that's fine. We can get into maybe some current events if you want to. But I wanted to give you the chance if maybe something came up that you maybe wanted to share with us in your adventures, either in Bitcoin or other places within, or I should say just anything you got.
Yeah. I don't know how humorous it is, more so like it's pretty stressful on my end, but looking back, I kind of find it funny. But so have you seen our Steal Bitcoin white papers?
Yes,
so,
I have.
Right. So I was trying to give my brother some work, and he was into sort of graphic design. I'm like, hey, okay, so I need to put all 8 pages of the white paper on one piece of steel as like an art piece, and I'm gonna try and sell those. And so we worked on it for months, and I read through it a million times, spell checking and whatnot, and we did a pre-sale, sold out. I sent in the design files to have them made, and we needed to resize it. I'm like, oh, okay, so we resized it, and I checked it over real quickly. I'm like, I've already spell checked it a million times. We just changed the size. Everything's going to be fine. So I send it in. About a week into it, I post a picture online, and somebody's like, where's chapter 7? And I'm like, chapter 7? I'm like, I look and didn't have chapter 7 on there. I'm like, I call up the producers right away. I'm like, you have to stop them. You have to stop. Like, stop. He's like, we're already etching them. I'm like, stop them. I'm like, you can't keep going. And so I call my brother. I'm like, fix it. And so he managed to fix it, and it looked great. Submit it again. I'm like, okay, this is good this time. And about a week goes by, and I post a photo online, and I look at it, and I see that the calculation of how long it will take for somebody to catch up to you after a block has been found, that calculation, one of the symbols was wrong. And I'm like, no. So I call him up, and he's like, we're already making them. I'm like, stop them. And so I just had to stop the production again a second time. He's like, we've already made a lot of these. I'm like, you have to stop making them. And so I ended up correcting it again and paying extra people to double check every last little bit, and I ended up submitting again, and it delayed it by a month at least. And like 2 weeks into it, they're like, we haven't started these. We're just afraid to start them. We're just expecting another change. And,
he's going to call us in a couple of weeks anyway. And
yeah. And we had already submitted changes before finding those too. So it was like, it was a nightmare, but got it right and got them made eventually. And yeah.
I can understand the stress and the panic and the fear, and that makes me laugh. So I'll count that as a story time story for sure.
Yeah.
I had a fishing story. I went out with my
we love fishing stories here.
Yeah, I went out with my oldest son. We were at the lake here, and really early we decided, we're gonna try these green rubber worms, and we had tried a bunch of different things. And so first cast, go to cast it out there, and a crow comes by, snags the worm, wraps itself up in my line, and like crashes into this dock. And I'm like, I caught a crow, and I threw my son the pole and went over there and I grabbed it, and I expected to grab it like a chicken. And if you know about chickens, if you grab them from the wings, they'll kind of like relax and they'll push out a little bit, but they're not very strong. The crow was a lot stronger. And so I was like, oh, and then it bit onto my hand, and it's holding onto my hand, and I'm like, and I'm like trying to unwrap it. And I eventually got it unwrapped, and it flew off and was fine. But that was
watching you try to wrangle a crow like a chicken.
Dude, I've been trying to befriend crows for months. I don't know if you guys, like, maybe the rest of you who aren't, mountain rednecks out there, maybe you don't know this, but crows can be incredibly helpful. Like, I mean, and like they're one of the most intelligent birds you could possibly hope to befriend. And I say that because there are stories and stories of, I started, kind of, reading up on crows after I found out, like,
are you telling me there's a crow rabbit hole?
There is a crow rabbit hole.
Gosh,
okay. I know, it's wild. And so what I've been trying to do just to try to like befriend them is like leave, like peanuts on top of the deer feeder, right? Like I'll put, I hear they love peanuts. So I'll go out, put peanuts and corn. I'm trying to like, make it to where there's always crows around. One of the benefits, and I mean, Zach, you've got chickens too. One of the benefits of having crows around is hawks do not like crows, like at all. And crows will chase them off. They communicate, they group, and then they chase hawks away from places like that. So that's one of my main reasons. But there are other people who have trained them to go out and grab things like fiat currencies and bring those back. There are ones that will just bring sometimes a snack or something to people that have befriended them. And it's funny, it's like now I feel like I need to get a green worm and some fishing line and make a trap for one so that I can like get it stuck and then save it and be like, hey, you want to be buddies? Like
I had always wanted a crow to be friends.
You want to fall flag up a crow so you can try it.
Yeah. So Zach, how many chickens you got?
Oh, have you ever seen the chicken math meme where it's like,
tell me about chicken math.
There's like, there'll be like a whole crowd of chickens, and then that's like, this is 8 chickens. There's clearly like 20 or so, and it's like when there's like 12, like this is 5 chickens, and then so I don't really know. The hawks come and get them, the coyotes come and get them, the raccoons come and get them.
Bobcats, bears.
Yeah, and so they're free range. We just let them out, and they go wherever around the property, and then they go home in their coop at night, and we shut it. And so they come and go. At most we've had maybe 60. Now we probably only have like 20, which is only like 8 chickens. So
that's funny. We started out with 50 earlier in 2024, and we're down to about 25 right now because of all the predators and things out here. But I got to tell you, it's fun that you got into that. Are you guys happen to be homesteading too and thinking about homeschooling? Are you guys, as crunchy and granola as I am, or is it just?
Yeah, definitely. We homeschool. My 8-year-old's way beyond, where he should be. And it's just amazing because, that you can teach them all the things that way quicker than a school would without all of the nonsense and all the bad behaviors and whatnot. So we the 2017 run-up was good. I wish I wouldn't have spent any Bitcoin getting this place because we could practically buy a mansion by now. But we're out in the middle of nowhere. Luckily we have fiber internet, and so in the woods with fiber internet.
And there's also Starlink these days. I mean,
yeah. I'd like to see that. We could go a little bit more remote, I guess. So.
Yeah, we got to play with some Starlink when we were up in North Carolina. And I'm telling you, if you're thinking about homesteading, or if you are a homesteader, either one of those things, and you don't have fiber, like a good Starlink is going to do everything you need and then some for everybody in the family. I mean,
it's not just marketing like that. That Starlink's a solid product right there.
Yeah. I mean, we were taking this thing. I think what you want to do is obviously face north, especially with the mobile minis. And as we are out in the hollers in North Carolina with these things, we were sometimes facing south, almost into the side of a mountain in deep valleys. And this thing worked great, especially after it was established. If it had been established for a while, and it knew where everything was, it had time tracks and time sinks and everything else where that array could pick these things up. And you mean down to I think almost the meter, in terms of where we were at navigating roads. I mean, that was the most signal any of those haulers ever had.
Yeah, that there was definitely, it was probably Virgin satellite signal going through there.
That's right.
We can see them at night. Just satellite after satellite after satellite. They just keep going. So that's so cool. On clear nights, that is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're getting into the final moments of the show here. It's been just a great pleasure having you. Closing thoughts, Mike and Zach. Zach, if you want to go first.
Yeah, no. Stay humble, stack sats. You're not too late. Just save what you can, and you will be amazed. You'll be able to, it's freedom. It's really freedom money. It'll, like you said, you won't have to work for somebody. Probably still do, because we're still so early. We really are. Most people aren't. There's a bunch of baby puppies making noises back there. So
You're good.
We have mini dachshunds now, so I guess
You're also a dog breeder, man. We're finding out more and more.
It just happened. Yeah.
I like the wisdom though, Zach. Not a whole lot of people in the Bitcoin space like to hear wisdom, it seems. So I personally appreciate it, because I try to dispel that as much as I can. It's like, hey, I get you're excited about how much wealth you've got, but let's make sure your position is like even more secure, and not quit right at the top of the bull market, or whatever. But if Zach, was there anything else you wanted to add for your last word?
No, just thank you guys. I appreciate it.
I punch plate, for God's sake.
I mean, we really appreciate it. We really do. Everyone counts, every order. For the first year, the Pump It Up song, we would play that every time we got an order, and we ended up hearing it so much. We don't do that anymore, but my kids still.
It's a good problem to have.
Yeah, no, it's been great. So.
One thing that I've been thinking this our entire time together tonight is for my last word is I would personally like to see you guys on your handle partake in some of our spaces. If you want to chat, I'm not saying force yourself up on stage just to be there, but if you ever do want to partake in the conversation, man, we want you to interact and hear, and we want to hear from you, not only to hear from you and to be engaged in the conversation, because good conversation is its own kind of reward, but especially getting kind of the attention, the spotlight on you guys a little bit more. Because what the algorithm does on Twitter with partaking in those spaces, people, it can be pretty hard to find somebody in the audience if they're not up on stage. So we want to help you out as much as we can, man.
I appreciate that. I think about it all the time, and I'm always I'm really shy. In fact, getting on tonight, I'm sweating bullets, and I public speaking.
I sweat bullets every podcast. Believe it or not, there was one in particular that was so bad. I sent Shane a picture of my pants. I had sweat through my pants while I was sitting on one of our podcasts.
It's now my screensaver. No.
So I feel you on that one, man. Do you have, as far as the people that you're going to be engaging with us on spaces, and that goes for anybody else that's listening. If you guys do want to partake, just send the request. There's nothing, you guys don't have anything to be nervous or afraid of coming from our end. The only thing you need to be afraid of is maybe the shadow bans that are going to come from the stuff that you talk about, because Grok is trolling those transcriptions on spaces. So just so you guys know.
You know what doesn't have any shadow banning? Nostr. Right.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think we're all headed there. I just call it a hunch, but as long as there's still a way to farm a lot of the non-Bitcoin crowd, which, let's face it, most of Nostr is Bitcoin, and probably porn bots. But outside of that, this is one of those spaces where if you're looking at target rich, come over and join those spaces. We would love to have you up there. You're a great guy. You're cut from the same cloth. I mean, when I find guys that homeschool and homestead and have chickens and talk about crows and all these other, dude, I'm in 100%. Not to mention you got the damn best Bitcoin seed plate around. I mean, honestly, it's an essential piece. If you're gonna have Bitcoin, you got to have a seed plate, and this is the best seed plate. It is not only the best design, but it is probably the best value that exists. And it sounds like you've got some new things on the horizon. Quick question for you. Are you bringing back the limited time white paper on metal, and when?
Yeah, so that's just one of those things. I've got to get enough pre-orders in order to sort of justify it. It's really expensive, and it can take, a few months for them to actually get made and delivered. So I do want to bring it back. I've just, there was a little bit of a slowdown past like maybe September-ish. So
you let me know as we're going through this bull market. I will pump that thing and try to get as many people on a pre-order as possible. I'll cut a new commercial for it because
I appreciate that.
I saw that the first time I ordered one off of your site for somebody else, and I was like, man, I didn't know that was a limited time thing. I was actually trying to pull up, where it was on your website, and it's not there anymore. And I was like, this is ridiculous, man. I missed out.
Yeah, I did open source the design. I think it's a really good design. My brother worked really hard on it, so it's on GitHub under Coloco's GitHub. So
it was beautiful.
But I will bring it back. So
limited run orders. Let's give them something to chew on. But Zach, man, it's been not only a pleasure to have you on the show and get to know you, man. It's really cool to get to know people who are changing the space. And for me, when I go out and have these conversations, like I was, I've been sitting in a lot of these conversations lately because, got a little time. I got people who are asking about this kind of stuff. And I'm like, all right, this is what you need. This is what you need. This is what you need. And every time I get to do it and go, hey, this is the easiest one. This is the cheapest one. This is it. This is, and tell them about Punchplate. It makes what I do in terms of freeing people and getting them on Bitcoin that much easier. And that's greatly appreciated. And I think we need more of that in the space. But I don't know, for everybody else out there, go out there, get a Punchplate, do some stocking stuffers, maybe have a stack of them ready to go along with maybe some cold cards or something like that, because tis the season, they say, in a bull market. Right now, you've probably got aunts and uncles and friends and cousins and anybody out there that's asking you specifically, man, Bitcoin's running right now. I should really probably take this a lot more seriously. Be prepared, right? And don't get caught flat-footed, because these people are literally, they're going to lean on you to free them from the collapsing empire system. And that is a huge, huge, honor. And I think it's something that maybe we don't take seriously enough as Bitcoiners a lot of times. So we appreciate you being here tonight, Zach. To everybody else out there, if you can't get enough of Bitcoin Veterans, we do a daily show. It is run by Coleman. A lot of times we're on there as well. He has some fantastic guests. I think he's already up to like show 70 something like it. I mean, he is pumping them out 5 days a week, 10 a.m. Eastern on Spaces. Go over there and check them out. They're great shows, great for learning. Just a hell of a crew that's over there. Outside of that, if you want to get in touch with us, you can go to bitcoinveterans.org. There you can drop us a message. You can sign up. You can get into our chats. We'd love to have you. This is all about getting anybody who's out there on the mission. If you know people who are veterans and they're not in the space, tell them about Bitcoin Veterans. This is an easy way to get people involved, especially with the holidays coming up. You got that crazy uncle or cousin or whoever else is out there that is that's a vet or in the service, man. This is vital proving grounds for Bitcoin. So I think until next week, we got Jack Donovan, the author of The Way of Men and a few other books that are out there. He's coming up next week. I think I think our fanboy Jordan is going to be joining us for that one as well. Maybe even Gabe. We'll see a guest appearance out of.
He better be. That's all I'm going to say. He better be joining us for that one.
Yeah,
people start talking about him.
He's already got this one down. He's swooning already, aren't you, Jordan? He's out there in the audience somewhere. I know he is, but yeah, we'll be back here at 7 p.m., 6:50 for the pre-show on X and that other, YouTube site that kind of throttles us anyway. But 7 p.m.
It's a meaningless site. We don't need to talk about them.
Yeah, they're going to be irrelevant soon anyway. Yeah. Zach, Mike, thanks again for joining me. Until next time, guys, we will see you next week. Peace.